how you think is the most important thing about you. Hello and welcome to the Furnace Discipleship Training Program. And again, our primary focus here in the Furnace Training Program is to develop young Christian servant leaders. We want to get them started. We want to get the foundation underneath them of Christian principles, and then we want to send them out into the marketplace. We want to send them out into business and into government and into education and into families and into the entertainment world, but send them out to have an impact in our culture here on earth as it is in heaven. So I greatly appreciate you choosing this training program for these young leaders. And when I say young leaders, this doesn't necessarily mean they're 15 or 16 years old. This is just new leaders or people that are stepping into leadership, maybe for the first time, but at least they're stepping into a measure of leadership that they haven't been in before. And so what we're doing is we're taking them through this Furnace program, the 4 levels, level 1, F1, F2, F3, and F4, and simply preparing them with the basic tools, the basic understanding, the basic foundation of Christian principles. So we continue with our Furnace training, which is focused on the formation of servant leaders. So I do want to do just a quick recap. This is a Facilitator Notes video. I do want to give just a quick overview of the bigger picture of where we're headed here. We're starting once again with our F1. This is our discipleship progression, the making of servant leaders. It all begins with what we did in the F1 level with the personal development. And this is where we're simply focusing on discipline and character. If you remember that, had a lot of great lessons on discipline and character. If we don't get this basic foundation of discipline and character underneath us, then there's no way that you can handle the pressure that's going to be coming as you are developed by somebody else. So there has to be this discipline, and again, remember the idea on discipline is simply staying within the boundaries, okay? It's not pushing the boundaries to fit your lifestyle, but it's making sure your lifestyle stays within the boundaries. And it takes discipline and character to do that. So we spent our F1 talking about discipline and character, focusing on that. Our primary verses, as you remember, out of Romans chapter 11, 12, and 13 is what we used to help us develop this whole idea here. Now, just because your group has gone through 16 classes of personal development does not necessarily mean they are now developed, okay? It's just started. You have introduced them to this idea of personal development. I have found, my wife and I, that it takes a good 18 months of focused, intentional, almost everyday activity to get somebody with a good foundation of personal development, to kind of work through the issues. Man, it'll take almost a good 9 months just to figure out what issues you have and what things you've developed over however old you are, however many years that you've developed a certain way of thinking. So it can take a long time just to discover what issues you need to start working through. And then as you begin to start working with those, you get new information, and then it's the implementation of all that information. So again, just because we've gone through 16 courses or 16 sessions of personal development does not necessarily mean that they are there. But hopefully in this, through the F1 program, we've been able to introduce the principles, the guidelines, the things that need to take place there. Okay? Now we come to mentorship. This is primarily where our F2 is focused. Mentorship, having somebody in your life that you are submitted to the point where you're bringing major decisions in your life to them. Should I date this person? About raising children or taking a certain job or moving from one place to another. Or if you're younger, what degree am I going to go after in college? Or who should I marry? And things like that. But bringing these questions to a mentor to have them help you navigate through. As opposed to what most people do, because we don't really know a whole lot about personal development, we simply just do the best we can. And we don't even know much about mentorship. We kind of get out of high school and move into college and we're doing the best we can. Well, I like this subject, so I think I'll get a degree in it. And we base those decisions on our desires or just what we think is best, or the classic, the whole pro-con list. All right, you may have done that yourself, as opposed to having somebody that can actually help us navigate through. So here at the Mentorship, we are primarily talking and needing to get this foundation of authority and endurance. How to keep going and not quitting just when things get difficult. You probably remember your 20s, maybe into your 30s. It's just about don't quit. Just keep moving forward. A lot of times it can be that simple. Just don't quit. Not for sure exactly what to do. Well, then just stay the course, keep moving forward. Okay? So this is our mentorship level. And then next of all, we move to management. And this is a key thing for everyone developing into a leader, okay? This doesn't necessarily have to be Christian leadership, all right? But again, if you want to be a great leader, whether you're a believer or not, if you want to be a great leader, one of the primary characteristics of a great leader is they're willing to serve. You probably have leaders and authorities in your life that you remember that you felt were great and they just had a big impact on your life. Chances are very good the impact came because you felt like they cared for you, they knew you, they helped you, they were concerned about you, and they had empathy and compassion on you and wanted to bring you forward. As opposed to other leaders that we've all had that were just kind of heavy on the management and you just need to do the job, and maybe they got a lot of things done, which was great, but as far as just the interpersonal relationships and everything, it was really tough. So yeah, they did good in the company, but as far as really impacting my life, there really wasn't much there. So as we move forward with continuing to fashion and shape young disciples and getting them prepared for biblical leadership in our culture, we want to move to this area called management. Management is simply giving people responsibilities, okay? We want to give them responsibilities, things that they are going to be over, things that they are going to be in charge of. Now again, the key thing here that you want to keep in mind is we always manage things. We don't want to manage people, okay? We lead people, we manage things. If you've ever been in a position where you feel like someone has tried to manage you, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You kind of feel like they're forcing, kind of pushing you into a box and stuff. I don't want to be managed. I want to be inspired. I want to be led. I want to be lit up. I want to be excited about something. Don't just manage me. Don't just put me in a box and set me over in the corner and make sure I fit with everything else. So that's the key thing. As we begin to teach management, we want to give these students that are in training something that they're going to be in charge of, okay? So again, going back to your Furnace program, the experience that you have them involved in is so vital. Again, we want to be very careful that that the Furnace program doesn't just kind of dwindle down to being just a class where we're getting education. We want to make sure that there's a strong experience where they have an opportunity to walk out everything that they're learning. It's kind of like the lab experience. I was a science teacher for 15 years, so the labs were always very important to get back there and get your hands dirty, all right, and get busy doing things. So you could see where the education actually applied, okay? And now as we move to the management level, this whole focus is going to be simply on integrity and dependability. In other words, can you do what you say you're going to do? And can I depend upon you? In other words, can I give you something of mine that you'll take care of without stealing it? Okay, now what I mean about that is if I give you something to be in charge of, if I give you some things, a schedule or some objects or something like that to be in charge of, number one, will you do what you say you're doing? Okay? Will you have integrity to what you say you're doing and what you're doing are the same thing? And then number two, can I depend upon you to care for my stuff? Okay, now catch this. Can I depend upon you to care for my stuff without stealing it? Now, what I mean by not stealing it is simply taking my ideas or taking my things without using them for your own gain. Okay? Yeah, of course, it could be not stealing the office stapler, and creeping away or something like that. But this is even more. Will you use what I give you to expand and improve what I'm doing? as a company owner, or as a company manager, or as a visionary, or as a leader, okay, or as a ministry or an organization? Or will you take the things and the resources that I give you and use them for your own gain? Will you take them and set up your own kingdom and kind of part everything away and come over here and say, this is all my stuff, and use my resources for your own gain? It's a key thing to keep in mind, okay? As we grow as young leaders and as we develop other leaders, can they do what they say they're doing, and can they be depended upon to use the resources that I've given them as a company leader, or as a nonprofit leader, or as a senior pastor in a church, or a youth pastor in a church, or whatever level I have? Will you take the resources that I've given you and help me expand what I'm doing first? Okay, this was the whole thing with Jesus and the disciples. If you remember, Peter had some of his own ideas, and again, I feel sorry for Peter because he was so zealous and so energetic that he got his foot in his mouth a lot, okay, so we use him a lot. But man, what an incredible picture of being developed as a leader. But remember what Jesus did. Jesus said, hey, I want to give you things, but I need to make sure that you're going to lead the way that I need you to lead. I want you to be sure that you are a representation of the culture of heaven. Just like you and I might say, hey, I'm going to give you some things to manage, but I want to make sure you manage them in the right way. I want to make sure you manage them the way that the company wants you to manage them, or the way that I want you to manage them, as opposed to just taking it, running it the way you want to do it. So this is a key level right here of responsibility as we grow as leaders in the kingdom of God. And then finally, we get to the leadership level, which is later on in our F4, when we talk here mainly about vision and strategy. Now, it's not uncommon for people with any kind of leadership talent or leadership skills that are built into them, for them to have an excitement about some kind of vision or something they want to do. Okay? And so that's a level of vision. That's one idea of having vision in your life, all right? In the ways of the Lord, the way that He works this out is He wants you to sit underneath someone else's vision first. Can you manage someone else's vision before I give you your own? Because if you can't manage someone else's vision, then when I give you your own vision, you will do the same thing. You'll use it for your own gain. Okay? So it's an interesting thing here, but with this vision here, but also a strategy. So this isn't just an 18-year-old that says, oh, I want to go change the world, I want to do this and that. That's good, but with leadership comes great strategy, okay? With the leadership talent and the leadership characteristics comes not only a vision for where to go, but a plan and a strategy on how to get there, okay? So again, those two things together. And also, you can't lead where you won't go, okay? You can't teach what you don't know. So it's so important. Up here, something else that we toss in is with the personal development, we primarily talk about how to be prepared to follow, okay? And then here in the mentorship, what you're going to do is see a model of following. How do I follow? So here I'm prepared to follow. Here I learn how to follow. I see a model. And then finally, when I get here to number 3 at the management level, this is where I'm actually following, okay? As opposed to, a lot of people say, oh, leadership training, I'm just going to get to step into leadership. We'll get to that. It's all a sequence. It's all a progression. So we learn how to follow so that eventually we can lead and train other followers or prepare other followers. And you can see this cycle of reproduction that begins to happen. So once again, in light of this progression, I'm so excited. Thank you so much for choosing to bring this furnace into your program, into your organization, into your church, to help young Christian leaders develop as disciples of Christ. It's so vital that we get the mentality of the kingdom into young leaders, so that when they move out into our culture and begin to take jobs in the marketplace and in government and education, and when they become parents and running their families and their households, as well as in the entertainment and arts and things like that, that they can actually have an impact on our culture. So once again, I just want to take a quick overview of the course and some of the things that you can do as a facilitator to help encourage these leaders. Now, they can have a lot of management experience. As a matter of fact, in my company, I spend a lot of time working with and training leaders who have been managers for maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And so here they are in their late 20s, early 30s, and they've been in management for a long time. And next thing you know, they've been promoted because they've done a good job of management. But just because you're a good manager doesn't mean you're a good leader. There's very different skill sets involved there. So all of a sudden they find themselves as a leader of some division or some department or some company, and they don't know how to lead. They don't know how to do the vision and strategy and inspirational and the personal piece and all that kind of stuff. So this could just be people that are new to this idea of leadership rather than just management. So as we start F2, you've got these F1 students that haven't necessarily graduated from personal development, but they have been introduced to the idea. And so what we want to do is, now that we're working with F2 and we're talking about the content in F2, we don't want to just forget about the F1 experience. We want to continue to stir them up, continue to help them with their personal development while we begin to talk with them about mentorship at the same time. So you're kind of doing both with that group and helping develop. Okay, bring this along, bring this along. Okay, we're going to work on this a little bit, but don't forget to bring this along. All right? Just like a shepherd, just like training somebody, you're trying to help them with their whole person as they're developing. And one of the wonderful things about the Furnace program that I have found is that it gives us a system to actually get people started in Christian leadership. So hopefully this will give you an idea just kind of where we are in the process, give you a big picture to help you know kind of where the F2 program fits in the bigger picture. And I encourage you to talk with your F2 students about this so that they can understand where they are, okay? So they're not just doing something that's not connected to anything else, but they can see how what they're doing now is connecting to a bigger picture. And what they've done before has prepared them for now, and what they're doing now will prepare them for then. Okay, if that makes sense. So I encourage you to even show them this and remind them this is where we're headed, and this is kind of where we want you to fit in the future. We have a place prepared for you. Remember Jesus talking to the disciples. This is very scripturally based. I have gone ahead. I have prepared something for you. Okay, so you're doing the same thing. At this level, we're going to teach them this, but we have prepared steps for them to move forward, and we want to encourage them and invite them to come forward. So once again, it's a huge step for these F1 students to move to F2. Many are called, but few are chosen. Chances are good that of those that were in the F1 program, you may not have 100% participation now moving to F2. Don't be discouraged. Don't be frustrated with that. Just understand that some are going to be hungry. Some are going to be thirsty. Some are going to be just dying for the next step. What is that? Blessed are those that hunger and thirst for righteousness. They want more. They want more. They want to move forward. They want to be developed. And those are the exact people that you want. You don't necessarily want to keep moving somebody that is not excited, that is not interested in development. You don't want to just push them through this program, okay? Because then you end up with a leader that you want to give things to that isn't excited about being where they are. So you want to be careful with that. So there's no need to be frustrated or upset if 100% doesn't move to the F2 level. But for those that do, man, spend time encouraging them and spend time recognizing what they've done. Oh, you guys, you've come to the F2. There's so few people that keep moving forward. There's so few, and you're them. You are a personification of the Scripture that you are continuing on. You are pressing on. I encourage you to spend time with them, recognize that, and boost them up in that. Okay? Not that they're going to get all proud and everything, but just let them know that this is big. Their decision to stay on the path, their decision to keep moving is a big decision. And your decision to continue to facilitate their move. Once again, I'll encourage you. That's huge. Guys, again, I think we got 7 billion people on the planet right now, and almost 7 billion people just aren't even aware. They're not even interested, not even concerned with the topics that we're talking about here. So for you to choose to be a part of somebody else's life and to choose voluntarily to bring them forward is a huge step for you as well. I'm sure that because of the position of leadership that you have, it's bringing up a lot of issues in you. Okay? Allow the Lord to continue to develop you as you are leading these others. So also, like we said, I encourage you to continue to seed for the future. Give them a view of what's coming up in the future. We're right here now. We're going to spend time here. But the plan is that we move to the next level. The plan is that we get into this place because we want to give you things. As a matter of fact, if there are people that are already in your organization or in your program or something that are a little bit ahead, you want to point to them. Okay, you want to go, man, I expect all of you to be like Johnny. You know, the plan is that you guys are eventually going to be the Johnnies and the Susies that we have in the company right now. And they're all going, oh, that's cool. That they are actually making a way for me to be that. Okay, that'll go a long way in inspiring them to, number one, stay with you, and number two, continue to engage in the content that you're giving them. And remember that the Furnace program here, this discipleship training, it's training for something, all right? And so you want to continue to let them know this is for a purpose, all right? It's not just training for training's sake. We're not just doing it because it's fun. We're not just doing it because if you want to be a leader, you got to go through this program, blah, blah, blah. But there's this training and this development is actually for something. And so I encourage you to continue to lay out to them, this is what we're doing this for. This is the reason why we're doing this. Here's the path, and here are the things along the path that we want you to connect with. That's why we're doing this. Again, it just goes a long way in helping people stay connected to your program. I've used the word program here several times, okay? Now, if you're like me, I remember going through a season of my life hating the word program. It just seemed impersonal. It just didn't seem real and all that kind of stuff, all right? I've come to kind of balance that out. You guys, a program isn't a bad thing, all right? But if you don't like the word program, that's fine. Don't use it, okay? Don't use it with other people. But really all that's gone on here is we have put together a series of steps, okay? We have put together a system. You guys, Jesus had a discipleship training program that he took his disciples through. Yes, there were the multitudes that he taught and had compassion on, but it was the disciples, the 12, maybe even the 72, that actually entered into the program. As a matter of fact, there can be an argument there that he actually did have a program for the multitude, a separate program for the 72, another program for the 12, another program for the 3, and a program for the 1. Okay? If that makes sense to you, that he actually had those different levels, those different intimacies, those different measures of engagement with those that he was bringing along. Okay? So once again, I say that because a program doesn't have to be a bad word, okay? And if it is a hang-up for you, I totally get it. I totally understand that. But I don't want you to get too hung up on that, okay? It's simply a series. And you guys, that's so important for us in the learning phase, that we have a step 1, step 2, step 3. I'm fully aware that later on as we grow and mature, that everything isn't that simple. Everything isn't that black and white. But at the beginning, it is. At the beginning, it's very important that we go step 1, step 2, step 3. Just like if you're going to learn a new language, or if you're going to be learning about science, or if you're going to be learning like driving a car or something like that, there is step 1, step 2, step 3 at the beginning. And that's where we are right now. So we want to put this thing into a nice structure that people can see so that people can easily follow it. And this will go a long way in helping you develop young leaders in your organization, okay? If you actually give them the steps of how that's going to work. And finally, as we finish up this introduction to the F2 program, I want to just remind you of the 3 E's, okay? The 3 E's are vital to the Furnace program. It's the combination of these 3 that make the Furnace program so powerful. If you take one of the ingredients out, you lose or you limit the impact on people's lives. It doesn't mean you're evil and you're going to hell if you do it, okay? You just lose the impact. You lose a measure of the impact. So again, we have the experience. This is simply the activity that you have them involved in. Again, it could be a summer camp experience or an after-school program experience or a short-term or long-term missions experiment, okay, that you're doing. Or it could simply be the daily activity of what's going on in your company, okay? The experience of being a manager or the experience of being an employee in your company is what you're going to use as the experience for their furnace, okay? The experience is, again, you got to create some pressure. You've got to give them a simple measure of responsibility so that they can respond to that. Next of all is the education. And this is the information that you're going to teach them and train them. We're covering all of the education piece here in the DVDs, giving them the education, the information, the revelation, the structure, and so on here in the education piece. And then finally, we have the evaluation, which is where you come in, or where mentors come in to these students' lives. Somebody that helps them evaluate or take these experiences in education and helps them navigate and evaluate how to applicate them into their lives on a daily basis. Okay? And this has to be consistent. It's not just once a year evaluation. This isn't just sitting down with them and going, well, let's see, how did you do on a scale of 1 to 10? All right, it's not just that. It's got to be more. Somebody that is sitting down and having those conversations. What kind of emotions are you trying to navigate through? What type of struggles are you having in your experience and with the information that we're giving you? How are you thinking about it? That's huge with the evaluation piece. How are you thinking about it? Well, I think that because of the experience, you're not letting me do very much, so you don't like me. You're just mean and blah, blah, blah. And so the classes are stupid. I go, but I think you're mad at me. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We are getting a wrong interpretation of what's going on here. Let me give you new perspective. But this evaluation piece is so important to help them get new perspective. And one final thing here, remember we talked about with the furnace or with the blacksmith and the way that they form and shape the metal that they work with. Remember, goes into the fire and then comes out and they bang on it and hammer on it and then they put it into the water. Fire, hammer, water. Fire, hammer, water. And that process goes on and on and on until the blacksmith gets that shape of the metal, the exact shape that they're looking for. Okay, let's take just a quick look here. The experience, you guys, this is the fire that we're putting them in. The experience has to have enough pressure in it. The experience has to have enough stretching in it to create enough heat or create enough fire or create enough pressure to where they actually become moldable. Where they actually, and what I mean by that, there's got to be enough pressure to bring up a lot of questions. Okay? If we keep their experience too short or keep their experience too simple for them, then there never will be this pressure that will bring up a lot of questions. So you want to make sure that the experience that you give them has enough pressure where they're going to be going, okay, I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. This is bigger than me. Now you've got them right where you want them. You've got their hand in the air. You've got them admitting, I don't know how to do this. What do you do when you don't know how to do it? I don't know what to do when I don't know, you know? Well, that's when you start training them. You need education. You need to get your hand in the air. The education piece here, this is the hammer. And you're probably beginning, even at the level 2 here, the F2 level, you're probably already beginning to hear me say several things over and over and over and over and over and over. We're hammering this new education. We're hammering this new information, this new revelation into their minds. You guys, Jesus did it with the disciples too. Just hammered the principles of the kingdom over and over and over again. We hammer those principles into their mind. You guys, I guarantee culture has been hammering away ever since they've been alive. Culture has been hammering away and forming them into a cultural model. So all of a sudden, culture is determining what success is. Culture is determining what our families are going to look like. Culture is going to determine what I should wear. Culture is going to determine what I should look like. Culture is going to determine my identity. You guys, if we don't do it as kingdom leaders, if we don't fashion and shape our younger generation or this next generation of leaders, culture will do it for us. And we won't get the output that we want. So the education is the hammer. We're going to continue to hammer away at just a few principles. We're not going to give them all these new things. It's very important here. And then finally, the evaluation piece. The evaluation piece is the water. Okay? Now remember, in this whole process, you got the fire and the hammer, and then when they put it in the water, it seals things. Okay? It seals things in shape. So what we're going to do here with the evaluation, this is when they come to us and they're going, this is what I'm thinking, and we go, yes, you're thinking right. Or, you know, hey, we probably need to hammer that out a little bit more, or we probably need to put that in the fire a little bit longer. But this one, yes, you got it. You encourage and affirm and confirm the way that they're thinking, and you help seal it into their head. I think I'm hearing this from the Lord, that this is what I should do. Yes, you're hearing the voice of the Lord. That's tremendous. Can you imagine the impact in their life when all of a sudden they think that they're hearing the voice of the Lord, and all of a sudden they have this mentor or this person that's further down the road that says, yes, you are doing it. Someone that can continually affirm in them that what they are feeling is truth, that what they are hearing is truth, as opposed to having somebody in their life just, well, you just need to listen to Jesus. You know, it's like, okay, I'd love to listen to Jesus, but what does that sound like? How does that work? How do I apply that? To actually have somebody in your life on a consistent, regular basis for a season of your life that is saying, yes, 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 that's it, you've got it, you've got it. Oh, well, no, wait a minute. Still need to hammer that thing out a little bit more. Need to learn a little bit more, and we probably need to have a little bit more experience there. But this, yes, yes, yes. Okay? So that's how these three things go together, the three E's: education, experience, and evaluation. So again, I'm very excited and thankful for you that you are choosing to move to the discipleship training of the ones that you are moving into leadership. Because remember, how you think is the most important thing about you.
How you think is the most important thing about you.